Hello and welcome back to Nerd Alert, WCTV's only pop culture show. I am Keegan Robbie, and today we will be tackling one of the biggest questions ever asked. Which one is better, Marvel or DC? We will be looking at the old, new, and upcoming projects and debate as to which one is better. So don't go anywhere because you are watching Nerd Alert on WCTV. Welcome back to Nerd Alert. First, we're going to go over the old Marvel and the old DC. Which one is better? Will, I'll start with you. Which one do you prefer, the old Marvel or the old DC?
Well, I grew up watching the Sam Raimi trilogy Spider-Man movies, and that's Spider-Man is by far my favorite superhero that I've ever watched and grew up with. And so Tobey Maguire and all the cast there with the Sam Raimi trilogy has just been really nostalgic for me, especially seeing him in the No Way Home, when he came back. And honestly, those movies really just found a love and passion for superhero movies as is, and they kind of set a picture and precedent for the new Marvel movies that come out, kind of. And the old Marvel movies, and I'm also going to bring in the Incredible Hulk that came out in 2003. This is before the 2008 one, but in 2003 they came out with the Hulk movie. And the style of those movies were kind of like comic book-esque, if you kind of get what I'm saying, is the way they shot those films were they put a bunch of action scenes where they split them in half like a comic book page would, and you'd see different frames of everything going on. So that was kind of cool to see. And now the Marvel movies today, they don't do that nearly as much at all. They've never really done that. But the old Marvel movies, including the Sam Raimi trilogy, they definitely had a lot of comic book type of style to it, and that was really cool that they did that back then, even though the storytelling was, it was all right. And I'm always nostalgic for the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, but they could have done a little bit better, but I'll always have a love for them just because I grew up with them.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I was a big fan of the old Batman movies on DC. Those are kind of what got me into superhero movies and Marvel, DC, that genre. But DJ, we'll throw it to you. Which one do you think is better, old or new Marvel and DC, or old DC or old Marvel?
I'm going to be honest, I think the old Marvel is probably better. I mean, when you think about old DC, you really just think about the Dark Knight trilogy, as you mentioned before. The Dark Knight trilogy, it's almost impeccable. It's amazing. But I will say that the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies cannot be touched, honestly. I think that Sam Raimi Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man. The X-Men movies are phenomenal also. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and all the other movies. There are some lackluster ones, but still, I think for the most part, old Marvel can't be touched by old DC.
Yeah, yep. I definitely agree with that. So we're going to move on to modern day Marvel and DC now. We touched on the old. Now let's start with what's happening now. I think Marvel has just outdone themselves time in and time out. They produce amazing movies that I just can't stop watching. But we'll go to you first, DJ, this time. What do you think is better, the current Marvel or the current DC?
Well, it depends on what time you're talking about. Honestly, I think up to Infinity War and Endgame, Marvel was phenomenal compared to DC. But recently after that, Marvel's kind of fell off. I think DC has done so much better with the recent movies. I mean, Black Adam, I just saw it not too long ago. I thought it was a really good movie, actually. It's kind of cheesy and cookie cutter superhero movie, but it's still pretty good. But my biggest problem with Marvel now is it took 10 years to start from Iron Man to the introduction of Thanos as a real villain, and the whole build up until then was just amazing. But Kang, the new big bad for Marvel, is in 3 years after Thanos is gone. So there's no build up. It's just one's gone, then one's here. You don't know his power or anything.
Yeah, he just kind of pops out of nowhere. I see where you're going with that. We'll go to you. Which one do you think is better, the modern Marvel or the modern DC?
Well, obviously, like DJ said, the modern Marvel definitely takes the win here, only because the modern DC, time and again, they kept rebooting themselves, whether they kept recasting actors for different superheroes, and they just continuously rebooted themselves. And with the Justice League, they even had to have an extended cut for one of their movies. And you don't see Marvel doing that for their movies. Marvel had its hiccups here and there with some of the modern movies they came out with, the first two Thor movies. They were kind of lackluster for how Thor's actually ended up turning out. They've really produced some great content, especially throughout the whole Infinity Saga with Thanos and everything. That was such a great build-up and such a great ending to that saga and to the original Avengers as is. So I would say Marvel does take the win there with all the cinematic stuff they had. The CGI at the time was great. I mean, as of recent, we'll get more in touch with what they've been producing as of late, and I have a certain company to blame for that. But nonetheless, modern Marvel has done an extremely good job of producing content as of up to now.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to our final topic of the three, the new and upcoming, what's happening in the future. We saw a little bit of sneak peeks from both of them online. Will, we'll start with you this time. What are you excited for? What do you think's better, the new or the new Marvel or the new DC?
DC has just hired James Gunn as a person to really take up the helm with what's going on with the DC universe, and that's a really good step for DC to come up and try and take over this battle between Marvel. I also know that this was a recent press conference he just came out with. He spoke about wanting to hopefully have a crossover between Marvel and DC. That would be interesting to see, to try and get Kevin Feige and the Warner Brothers to try and come together and make a movie such like that. But hiring James Gunn is a really good step for DC, and I hope they make the progress they need to make. And I think the main thing they need to work on is to stop rebooting characters and just stick with the actors you signed and trust what they can do. Maybe hire better writers at that point. Maybe it's not the actors that are the fault. Maybe it's the writers. As for Marvel, I think this is where Disney comes in at fault. Disney just continuously pumps out TV shows and movies without even double checking them. They have these strict deadlines that they come out with, and it's like they don't even care about the content anymore. I mean, the CGI speaks for itself. I mean, She-Hulk, what CGI was that? I don't know about y'all, but it was, the CGI needs to get better, and just all in all, Marvel needs to just slow down and think about what they come out with next.
Yeah, DJ, we'll go to you real quick. What are you excited for, the new Marvel or the new DC? Which one do you think is going to be better?
I'm going to kind of say what Will said pretty much. I think that with Marvel, we're getting too much of a good thing right now, and it's just too polluted with so many, what I feel is very bad TV shows. There's a few good ones in there, but I am excited. Daredevil was one of my favorite Marvel shows. It was kind of connected to the MCU, but wasn't, and now it's fully connected to the MCU. It'll be coming out here in a couple years. And for DC, I mean, I think that them getting Henry Cavill back as Superman is a really good thing. And the new Batman movie coming out, the sequel to Robert Pattinson's Batman, I think that's going to be a pretty good movie as well.
Yeah, see, I'm really excited for the new Batman, as you just said. But that's all we have for this segment of Nerd Alert for the which one's better, Marvel or DC. We'll be right back with you, though, but for now, here's WUTunes on Nerd Alert.
Welcome back into another segment of WUTunes. I'm Logan Episcopo, joined by Jesse Kane today. We're talking about the Hot 100 Billboard charts, and Jesse, 1 through 10, Taylor Swift, number 1, peaking Anti-Heroes.
Yeah, Taylor Swift with her new album she just released. We saw before, in a couple weeks before she dropped that album, Harry Styles was up there at the top 100s, but T Swift, all top 10 spots. My favorite song from the album is Question. It's a little lower in the top 10, but like you said, Anti-Hero, number 1.
Yeah, I personally haven't really listened to the album too much. My girlfriend's a big T Swift fan. I know a lot of people have been pushing for T Swift to make this comeback, I guess you could say, with having a concert for the first time in quite a few years. But Anti-Hero's #1. I'd say that's probably, from what I've listened to, my favorite.
Yeah, T Swift's Midnight's album dropped, but guess what dropped last midnight? Drake and 21 Savage's new album, Her Loss. Logan, what are your thoughts about the album?
I mean, to say the least, I was very much looking forward to it, and it's not disappointed at all. I'm a huge fan of it so far. Only a couple listens through, so still need some time to really soak everything in, but Drake, 21 Savage, I think they're just such a dynamic duo.
As always got to give albums some time to soak in, and this one definitely. But from the start, one of my favorite songs is Spin About You, with obviously Drake and 21 Savage, but we also saw a feature of Travis Scott in the album too. But just great music coming out, and we're kind of nearing the time of peaking with other music, as Mariah Carey's jumped into the Spotify charts again. Logan, is it too soon to listen to Christmas music?
Jesse, I'm glad you asked this question. It is way too soon to be listening to Christmas music. Let Thanksgiving pass. It's still a holiday. Let Thanksgiving pass, then turn on your Mariah Carey and all your other Christmas tunes. It's way too early to be listening to Christmas stuff.
I agree with you, but Christmas is some of the best music around, and I like to say wait till after Thanksgiving, but I find myself listening to some Last Christmas by Wham! Yesterday, honestly. So we're getting to that time. Whether you want to listen to it after Thanksgiving or before, it's up to you, but the people have spoken, and Mariah Carey is back.
Yeah, Mariah Carey is on the way back. I'm going to be that person that waits till the day after Thanksgiving to really turn on the Christmas music, but that's all we have for WUTunes for this episode of Nerd Alert. Please stick around for the rest of today's episode.
You're watching WCTV, where we aim to bring you the best local coverage of what you care about most. Everything from local businesses to hometown sports and the latest weather. We're keeping up to date with what you need to know about issues that affect our campus and our community. We're telling the stories that matter, celebrating our past, our future, and our potential. So tune in for all the latest buzz right here on WCTV Channel 14, Waynesburg.
Welcome back to Nerd Alert. I'm Keegan Robbie, and we're going to continue our Marvel and DC talk here. We're going to start with DC. DJ, we'll start with you. What are some favorite movies or moments you've had or seen on DC movies?
I mean, obviously the Dark Knight trilogy. We mentioned it earlier in our other segment before the DCEU even started. I like the Dark Knight trilogy, and honestly, compared to the movies, I used to like the shows better than I did the movies. The Flash TV show and Arrow, both of them were very good shows with DC characters, but just like Marvel, they kind of died off at the end. They got too convoluted with everything else going on, and they just fell off for me, and I kind of quit watching them. But I'm glad that the movies for DC have picked up, so I can start watching them again.
Yep, I agree. I really like the Batman movies, as we said before. Will, we'll go to you. What are some favorite movies, favorite moments of DC?
Well, like DJ said, The Arrow was a fantastic show until it started dying off maybe near the end. But I grew up a Batman fanatic just like you, Keegan, just because my dad was always a Batman fan. He always watched the Adam West Batman 1960s series, so that was a classic. So growing up watching Batman, you know, I watched the George Clooney Batman movie. We're not going to talk about that one. I mean, personally, I thought of it as a favorite because I grew up with it, but I know there's a bunch of flaws with it now. The Dark Knight trilogy, fantastic series with Christian Bale as Batman. Heath Ledger as a Joker. We'll never have a better Joker maybe as him, other than probably Willem Dafoe, who I would love to have as Joker. But also Tom Hardy as Bane, that was fantastic. I love quoting him all the time. I also love the Gotham series. The Gotham series was really well done, especially with the aspect of having the Joker in there and the way they wrote his character. It was kind of twins, really, but the way they wrote that show was actually really well done without having Batman until the end of the show. So, I'm personally a Batman fanatic. I mean, Superman, I didn't really grow up watching him too much either. So, that's really my take on DC. Is Batman really has stolen the show for DC and has led them throughout the way.
Yeah, actually, you just kind of touched on what I was going to ask next. Superman. I think I kind of know already what the answers are going to be, but who do you prefer, Batman or Superman in the DC movies?
I'm probably going to go with, if you're talking about the old movies, Batman, definitely. But I think Henry Cavill's done a really good job as Superman now. I think in the future, like I said before, they hired him back, so I'm really excited to see that. But Ben Affleck's not a bad Batman. It's just I prefer Christian Bale's over his, so it just depends on what franchise you're talking about.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I wasn't a big Superman fan at the beginning of DC. It's kind of grown on me. Always been a Batman guy, as we've been talking about. But we'll go to you, Batman or Superman? I think I kind of already know which one.
Yeah, I already said Batman, but you know, I mean, it all depends on how each person feels. I mean, Henry Cavill, he's done a fantastic job as Superman. I mean, he really fits that character in that mold of what you think is a Superman. With Batman, I mean, you haven't had very many bad casting choices. I mean, other than maybe George Clooney and Val Kilmer, but those movies are their own thing. I mean, if you're talking about Michael Keaton or Adam West in the 1960s, even, you know, Christian Bale, who did a fantastic job. Robert Pattinson's actually done he's done a great job as the Batman now. So, I mean, Batman takes over just because he has had a plethora of good casting choices, but modern day Superman is really starting to grow on me just because of how well done Henry Cavill has taken over.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go over to the villain side of it. We talked about superheroes. Now time for villains. DJ, who's your favorite DC villain?
This is going to go back to the TV shows again, but the Reverse Flash was like my favorite villain. I just think like his character and story, in the comics it's a little weird, but like in the way they did it in the movie, in the show, that it was really good. And I think probably it's going to be a generic answer, but for the movies, the Joker. I did like the new Joker they introduced into the Batman. He wasn't really in the movie, but he was in a deleted scene in a post-credit scene. But I'm hoping we get to see more. I forget the actor's name that plays him, but still he was really good in what little bit we did see of him.
Yeah, I have to agree with Joker. Always been a huge Joker fan. I actually dressed up as the Joker when I was little for Halloween, so I was always following him and thought he was a pretty funny character, and I thought he did a great job on every movie. We'll go to you.
I'm going to be the outlier here and say Bane was my favorite from the Dark Knight trilogy. Bane, played by Tom Hardy, was I absolutely loved him. I quote him all the time. I even try to do his accent with a Pringles can sometimes, but that's like the best way you can get it done. But the way they did Bane in the Dark Knight trilogy was so different than what you previously saw them, whether it be in TV shows, comics. Like, if you portray Bane in the comics, you'd think of him more as just a brute, maybe not too much with brains at all. But in the Dark Knight trilogy with Bane and Tom Hardy, he really brought some elegance and some, like, intelligence to the Bane character. Like, he wasn't just strong, he was smart, and he actually had plans thought out, and he had Gotham under his hand. Like, Tom Hardy made me believe that Bane had Gotham under his firm grip like that. I mean, Batman obviously always comes out and saves the day usually, but you know, Bane had a huge control over Gotham, and Tom Hardy really made that character like come alive.
Yeah, I see where you're coming with that. I kind of agree with that. I didn't even think about him when we were talking about villains, but I definitely agree with that. That's all we have for this segment, though. Stay tuned on Nerd Alert as we go to Movie Minute with Rebecca Vaughn.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Nerd Alert. I'm Rebecca Vaughn here with your Movie Minute update. First, I want to flash us back to 2009. I was about 8 years old at the time and a new movie had just been released with all blue characters. And no, I'm not talking about the Smurfs. I'm talking about the movie Avatar. Written, directed, and produced by James Cameron, the science fiction film took the world by storm. This movie was the highest grossing film in the world for nearly a decade, only to be overtaken in 2019 by Avengers Endgame. And now I am so excited to say the release of the sequel movie is quickly approaching. At first, the movie was aimed to be released in 2014, but new technology actually had to be developed so certain scenes could be shot underwater. Filming for this movie concluded in 2017, and it actually took 3 years to shoot everything. The movie is currently set to be released on December 16th of this year, and let me tell you, it can't get here fast enough. Warner Bros. Is looking at the possibility of putting out more Harry Potter films, if author J.K. Rowling agrees, of course. According to Warner Bros. Discovery CEO, the company wants to focus on previously made franchises. So if J.K. Rowling is in on it, more Harry Potter films could be in our future. And I'll leave you with one last thought. Puss in Boots, the little cat from Shrek, is getting a second movie. In the movie Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, the cat discovers that he's lost 8 of his 9 lives, and he sets out on an adventure to find the mythical last wish so he can restore his 9 lives and keep fighting crime. This movie drops December 21st. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you here on the Movie Minute, so stick around for more Nerd Alert.
This is producer Caleb Yager, and you are watching The Buzz.
Welcome back to Nerd Alert. We've touched on the new Marvel versus new DC, current Marvel versus current DC, and future Marvel versus future DC, and we've also touched on a bunch of DC topics, but we're going to go with Marvel now. We're going to start with the new Black Panther movie coming out. Will, we're going to start with you on that.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I mean, with the sad passing of Chadwick Boseman, it's going to be interesting to see how Marvel has really written his Black Panther's younger sister Shuri into this role, whether or not she'll be able to take this mantle. Because a lot of fans, I mean, some were trying to say that it should have been recasted to another male part, but I think choosing his younger sister was a perfect choice. I think she might be able to take over this mantle as a new Black Panther, and I think they're introducing Ironheart into this movie. I'm not entirely sure. They should be. So seeing a new, Tony Stark-esque type of character as well, that's just going to be really interesting to see, and I truly believe they should be able to make it work, because the original Black Panther was a really good movie. So I'm interested to see how this movie is going to go.
I agree. I'm excited for the younger sister part. I feel like that was a good decision by Marvel to do that instead of recasting a new male role. I think Chadwick Boseman just did too good of a job to recast it to another male role. I think he let his legacy end with the last movie. But DJ, we'll go to you. What are you excited for this new Black Panther movie?
I agree with what you guys said about Chadwick Boseman. I mean, he was a phenomenal actor, and it's very sad about his passing and everything. But I am excited to see Shuri as a new Black Panther. I don't think it should have been recast either. I think they did a good choice in making her the Black Panther. I mean, if you're going to pick anyone else, I think that M'Baku should have been the next in line, which I think Shuri is doing a good job and everything. But if you're going to pick someone else, it can't be recast Chadwick Boseman. It has to be someone else from the series already.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're going to go to the movies. Favorite movie for Marvel all time? DJ, we'll start with you.
Well, this is going to be a very tough one. For the MCU, it's probably either Infinity War or No Way Home. I mean, like I said before, I think that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, greatest Spider-Man of all time, and I was so happy to see him on the screen again. I know that Marvel was kind of appealing to nostalgia there, but still, I didn't care at that moment. I just loved seeing him all over again. And Infinity War, the build-up for that movie was just so long. Could not wait for it, and it came out, and it surpassed all my expectations.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed Infinity War. It was a big build-up for it, and it it was true what they were saying about it before it came out, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Will, we'll go to you. Favorite ever all-time Marvel movie?
All time. I'm gonna split this up into two just because this is like how I feel. So we're gonna go before the MCU. My favorite Marvel movie was Spider-Man 2. That whole entire plot was well done with Dr. Octopus and Tobey Maguire trying to figure out if he still wants to be Spider-Man while dealing with a new villain who happened to be, a mentor of his. I mean, that was just a perfect plot, and it was a great movie, very well done for the Sam Raimi trilogy. For the MCU, I'm probably also going to have to lean towards Infinity War just because of, like, the expectations. I mean, every Marvel movie up to that point, you'd seen the heroes come out on top, and finally we see the big bad villain, Thanos, come out and just crush them. He just walked all over the Avengers like it was nothing, and it was perfectly well written. I mean, there was moments that you think the Avengers had him, and they should have if Star-Lord didn't freak out. But that's a part of the movie, and it was really well written, and it led to Endgame, and that's what it needed. It did its job well. It did what it had to do, and it was perfect. So Infinity War's mine.
Yeah, so I'm actually a huge Captain America guy. I've always loved Captain America movies. I'm not really sure which one I prefer, though. I might have to go first Avenger. I just like the whole plot behind it. I think it's a great intro to the Avengers in having him as the first Avenger, obviously the name of the movie. But we'll go to favorite superheroes now. Will, we'll start with you this time. Who's your favorite superhero?
Spider-Man. Hands down Spider-Man. I grew up with Tobey Maguire, and then even watching Andrew Garfield was really well. I mean, not a lot of people liked it when it came out, but now it's become sort of a cult classic. But Andrew Garfield did a really good job, and Tom Holland's doing a great job. I mean, each has a great quality for, Spider-Man. Tobey was a great, older, wiser type of Spider-Man. I mean, at the time, he was playing Peter Parker, who was just graduating high school and everything, and we grew up with him throughout the trilogy. So he plays a great, older, wiser Spider-Man like in No Way Home. Andrew, I think he's actually kind of a great combination of both. I would say he's more of a great, he's great at the wittiness and, able to get out, quips and stuff to his enemies, really easily. He's really good at being, a Spider-Man, and Tom Holland's good at being a younger Peter Parker. So each has their own great quality, but nonetheless, all of them are fantastic at it. So Spider-Man has always been my favorite.
DJ, we'll throw it to you now. Which one is your favorite all-time superhero for Marvel?
So I'm going to kind of mimic what Will said. Spider-Man is also my favorite. And if I didn't pick Spider-Man, I have to say Iron Man, because the most important part to me about a superhero is not even about the superhero part itself. It's about the person behind the mask. And I loved watching Tobey Maguire struggles through Spider-Man 2. And then everything else that Peter Parker just goes through on a day-to-day basis. And then with the Iron Man series, Tony Stark has had one of the roughest lives compared to some of the other people inside the Marvel universe, and just to see him overcome that, be Iron Man, be a really cool character, and everything else is just amazing to me.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I love Iron Man as much as I love Captain America, but if I had to choose my favorite superhero, I'd have to say Iron Man, just because of what you said, the man behind the mask. He's gone through so much throughout the whole Marvel series. And I think he's overcome so much, and it's just a great superhero plot to have with his life. And we're gonna go to villain. Will, we'll start with you again. Favorite villain on Marvel?
It's a toss up between Thanos and Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin is iconic, and he stole the show in No Way Home. And with him stealing the show in No Way Home and redefining his character as Green Goblin, it only made me think that, this is bringing back to DC a little bit, but he would be a perfect Joker. He has the mannerisms, he has the face of the Joker, he would just be absolutely perfect. And the Green Goblin's kind of like the Joker of the MCU, and he just knocks it out of the park. I mean, he really just has that villain-esque type of personality. I mean, you can't go wrong with Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin in the MCU, and now he's finally brought into the MCU because of No Way Home, and he just did phenomenal, and so that's why I love him so much. He scared me as a child, but now I love him because he just did such a great job at doing just that.
Yeah, DJ, now for you, which villain is your favorite?
I mean, I think Will said it perfectly. I mean, Green Goblin is honestly one of the most terrifying villains you'll see. He's honestly a pretty grounded character. He's just so scary because like how like real he is pretty much. Like Thanos, he's an alien from space, but Green Goblin, he's just a man that tried to do an experiment on himself and it went wrong. Like, you know, and then also I love characters that like villains that mirror the hero pretty much, and like Venom and Spider-Man, or like Flash or Reverse Flash, as I mentioned with DC earlier. But I think that it's going to be a hot take, but Obadiah Stane from the first Iron Man movie, I thought that was really good. As I mentioned before, I like more grounded movies and characters. I mean, I'm not like a huge fan of like WandaVision, like she's like using magic and stuff, or like anything like that. I like, you say Captain America too. Obadiah Stane was like the most realistic villain that you could get, just making a man making a machine and using that against Tony Stark.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I was going to say him also. I think he just a great background. Again, as we were talking before, backgrounds of characters, a great background, and came in and ended up being a villain, a normal human being doing experiments and building on technology, becoming a villain. I think it's very, very good for Marvel to make him a villain, just so they can see like, there's regular people out here, like not just superheroes. Mm-hmm. But that's all we have for this segment. And next up, we'll have Level Up with Nick Staso on Nerd Alert.
Welcome back to Level Up, everybody. My name is Nick Staso. Let's get right into your gaming news. Starting up, early this October, Overwatch 2 just released for all consoles. Yes, Blizzard redoing their Overwatch 1 game that came out in 2016, adding new characters and a couple new maps. I play the game religiously. I'm actually on the Overwatch 2 team here at Waynesburg University, and all I can say is that the game is great, the characters are great, and actually tomorrow, if you are into the Overwatch League, for the grand finals, they are releasing the new character. They're going to talk a little bit about who they are, what their abilities are, so we're going to stay tuned on that. Up next, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Yes, Call of Duty is back for their newest installment of Modern Warfare 2. They remade the game. Everybody wanted a new Call of Duty, so they said, hey, let's do it. So all they did was remake Modern Warfare 2, and the game is taking off. Everybody loves it. The campaign looks good. The online looks great. They got rid of slide canceling, but they did add back everybody's favorite movement, the dive. A couple guns from the old games are back, and a couple maps as well. Looking into the future, Sonic Frontiers. Yes, Sonic is back. Our favorite blue hedgehog is back. Personally, my favorite Sonic game is Sonic Generations. That came out about 10, 11 years ago. Came out for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. However, Sonic Frontiers looks great. Unfortunately, the reason why it looks great is because the game got leaked on YouTube. Yes, Sonic Frontiers was leaked. You saw the campaign all the way through. This may or may not be good for Sonic, just because that gives people a chance to say, oh, I don't like the game, it doesn't look good, so I'm not going to buy it. However, we are going to keep you updated on that later. Looking forward, God of War Ragnarok. Yes, everybody, God of War is back. Kratos and his son are back for another installment of God of War. The previous game in 2018 won Game of the Year. Kratos, yes, our favorite Spartan, he is back. He is here. He's going to fight Thor in this one. I'm pretty excited. I never got to play the 2018 installment. However, I am pretty excited for that. Graphics look good. Gameplay looks great. And it's for PS5, Xbox X, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One and Xbox S. That was it for Level Up. Stay tuned. You're watching Nerd Alert.
Have you ever been to the Everly Library? If not, you should, because it's great. They have books of all different genres: history, biography, fiction. Try The Evolution of Life, Life of Pi, or Jurassic Park. So what if books aren't your thing? Try movies like Frozen or TV shows like Lost. Books and DVDs aren't the only thing though. Take a trip to the second floor. Welcome to the Writing Center. These tutors will tell you everything you need to know about writing a paper, and they'll help revise your essays. Now let's head back down. Behold, the Knox Learning Center. Need to print something out 5 minutes before your next class because you procrastinated? No problem. You can also print off pictures of dogs. Because, well, you can. So grab your homework, laptop, and textbook, and study diligently. Bring your lunch too. Actually, you can't. That's illegal. Now you know the Everly Library. Stop by anytime. Seriously, it's open all week.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Nerd Alert. This is Alex Hughes here with your esports talk for you on this episode. And to start things off, we're going to talk about the Overwatch team here at Waynesburg University. Yesterday, on Thursday, November 3rd, they were in action and they dropped their two matchups 3-0 yesterday, both of them, dropping their overall record on the season to 2-4. And again, they had some bumpy roads at the beginning, starting 0-2, then they got back to 500 at 2-2, and then after these ones again, dropping to 2-4. They will be back in action this week as they have matchup 1 on Tuesday and 2 coming up on Thursday. And then another also thing to talk about with the esports team is the impressive Rocket League team. They are undefeated so far on this season. They have a matchup today on Friday, November 4th, as they look to increase their undefeated record to 6-0 and continue to improve on this very impressive inaugural season for themselves. And again, it's just been a very impressive season for them in Rocket League, and they have the playoffs coming up for them very soon here later in the month of November. That is what we have for you today with esports. Thank you for watching Nerd Alert.
This is producer Caleb Yager, and you are watching The Buzz.
Thank you, Alex, for that esports update. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode of Nerd Alert. Thank you for tuning in.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.